welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into something that I think is moving from just a weird tech novelty into a really fundamental challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is this: are we truly unpredictable? Or is artificial intelligence actually building a reflection of you?
A reflection.
Yeah, a detailed, continuous profile we're calling the algorithmic mirror, one that might just know your next choice before you even make it.
It's a stunning proposition, isn't it? And it's so much more than just a theory at this point.
Right.
Every single interaction you have online, I mean, that tiny hesitation before you click a link, the exact moment you scroll past an ad, the specific keywords you use in a search you think is private.
All of it.
Every bit is a digital breadcrumb. And these crumbs, they're feeding this massive adaptive system that is analyzing and modeling your digital self right now as we speak.
You know, I think everyone's had that strange, almost uncanny valley feeling where your online experience is just a little bit too personalized.
No, absolutely.
Maybe the music recommendation algorithm seems to have just mapped out your entire soul, or an ad pops up for the exact thing you were just thinking about 5 minutes ago.
That sensation, that's it. That's the algorithmic mirror showing you its reflection.
So that's our mission for this deep dive.
Right. We want to explore the critical leap that AI has made in putting that reflection together. It's moved so far beyond just simple content recommendations.
This isn't just about suggesting another cat video.
Not at all. We're now seeing AI that's capable of anticipating really personal choices, your emotional states, even complex behavioral patterns. So we're going to look at the specific mechanisms, the huge market forces that are driving this predictability, and of course the profound implications for our own agency.
And crucially, what you can do about it. How you can start to manage your own digital footprint using insights from some cutting-edge research on AI and digital culture.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's unpack this, and I think we have to start with the sheer scale of the operation. I mean, to build a flawless mirror, AI needs a vast amount of data.
A staggering amount.
So how much are we, the users, actually generating? And how is AI pulling all of this together to form these incredibly detailed profiles?
The scale is, it's almost incomprehensible. We are all generating data constantly and at this enormous volume.
Just by existing online.
Just by carrying your phone. Think about your smartphone for a second. It logs active data, right? The searches you type, the emails you send.
The stuff I'm conscious of doing.
Exactly, but it also logs this massive amount of passive implicit data. Your location history, your device's battery drain cycle, even the speed at which you scroll or dismiss a notification.
Wow.
These millions of tiny data points are the digital breadcrumbs.
That distinction between active and passive data feels really important. We usually just think about the data we give the platforms, you know, like a profile picture or a comment I type out.
But the passive data, the stuff that's just happening in the background, that's often more honest, isn't it?
So,
Well, the data we actively provide is subject to our own curation. We're presenting a certain version of ourselves to the world.
right, my highlight reel.
Exactly. But passive data, that reveals our genuine habits, our impulsiveness, our routines, and sophisticated algorithms aggregate and analyze this enormous continuous data set. We're not talking about some static profile that was built from a survey you took once.
No, this is alive.
It is. We're talking about continuous, adaptive profiles that are being refined every single millisecond. The algorithm learns you by observing what you do when you think nobody's watching.
So the output of all that aggregation isn't just a list of my favorite movies or my Amazon purchase history.
Not even close.
It's an integrated, continuous, and super detailed profile of me as an individual, and then it's cross-referenced against millions of other people who are like me.
Precisely. That profile is the very foundation of the algorithmic mirror. And initially, the uses were, as you said, seemingly innocuous.
Sure.
They just enabled personalized advertising and content recommendations. If you search for hiking boots and then 30 minutes later you see an ad for a specific brand of hiking boots, that's just the benign face of this technology at work.
It feels efficient. It feels helpful even.
It does. But that efficiency, it very quickly scales into profit. And that's when predictability becomes the core business driver.
Okay, so let's connect that personalization directly to the money trail. Because predictability isn't just about showing me a better ad for boots, right? It's changing entire industry models, especially in media.
Oh, completely.
Where are we seeing this dynamic most clearly in action?
We see it vividly across all digital media, but the sources we looked at give us some really interesting specifics about the podcasting space, actually.
Okay.
Predictability allows advertisers to match their products with their ideal customer profiles with, well, surgical accuracy. It moves advertising from being a sort of scattergun approach to being a laser-guided missile.
So how does an AI even do that for a podcast? I mean, it's mostly just audio. How does it know who's listening and what they're like?
It uses some pretty advanced techniques like latent semantic analysis. So it's essentially reading the transcripts of every single episode to understand not just the topic, but the nuance of the conversation.
The tone, the subtext, all of it.
All of it.
Yeah.
Then it correlates that with listener behavioral modeling. Where else does this audience go online? What are their spending habits? What time of day do they listen? By combining the content analysis with all that behavioral data, the AI can pretty much guarantee an advertiser that the audience for this specific show has a high propensity to buy their product.
And we have hard data showing that this is really changing the economics of the space.
We do. Our sources show that over half of podcasters, 53%, specifically expect to see a measurable increase in sponsorship deals in 2026.
And that's precisely because of this rise in AI-powered audience matching.
Exactly. This is the financial incentive for the mirror to be as clear and as accurate as possible. It drives commercial viability because it reduces all that wasted ad spend.
It's not just the advertisers who benefit from this, though. AI is also fundamentally curating how we, the listeners, discover new content. If I rely on a platform, the AI is actually determining my path of discovery, and I probably don't even realize it.
That's so true. The sources indicate that a really significant number, 38% of podcast listeners, find new shows specifically through social media algorithms.
So it's a feedback loop.
It is. The AI isn't just optimizing advertising. It's actively deciding which new voices you hear, which new ideas you encounter, and ultimately it's shaping your consumption habits to maximize engagement. It's dictating the scale.
Which makes perfect sense from a business standpoint. You get scale, efficiency, a guaranteed reach.
Right.
But, you hit on something interesting there. While the algorithms are driving that business side, there seems to be this persistent human element that kind of resists total algorithmic control, especially when it comes to trust.
This tension is one of the most fascinating psychological dynamics in all the data we see. The entire premise of the algorithmic mirror is that we are predictable.
Right, that our preferences can be perfectly modeled.
Exactly. And yet, when we need to make a really high-stakes decision, like deciding what content is truly worth our very limited time, we still turn to other people.
So despite all these powerful personalized curation engines on social media and podcast platforms, the data still shows that 45% of listeners discover new podcasts through personal recommendations.
Some friends and family.
From other humans.
That word-of-mouth recommendation, it remains the absolute strongest trust signal in the entire media landscape. And just think about the difference for a second.
Okay.
An algorithm offers perfect efficiency. It's perfectly tailored, but it lacks a moral dimension or any kind of shared experience. A friend, on the other hand, offers imperfect efficiency. They might recommend something you totally hate.
Happens all the time.
But that recommendation carries the weight of a shared experience, of trust. It signals a high quality that the algorithm just can't replicate.
The algorithm is driving the quantity. It's reaching millions efficiently. It's managing the logistics and the monetization. But if I want to know what's genuinely good, or maybe what's going to challenge me in a meaningful way, I still ask a human.
We're outsourcing the scale to the machines, but we're keeping the trust within our social networks.
It's a classic friction point.
It is. It's this tension between the optimization for scale and the human demand for genuine, high-quality content. And we see this playing out even in so-called owned media, like email newsletters. AI is now expected to enable higher rates of audience matching there as well.
So even in that more personal channel, the data analysis is taking center stage to maximize engagement. It's like it's trying to bridge that gap between scale and a perceived intimacy.
That's a great way to put it.
The bottom line seems pretty clear then. Every corner of our digital lives is under analysis for the sake of better engagement and better monetization. But how do we make that jump from just identifying patterns in my past behavior to accurately predicting my future choices and maybe more worryingly, my emotional states?
That's the big question. And that shift from correlation to anticipation, that's really the heart of predictive machine learning.
Okay, so what's the core mechanism?
It involves identifying these incredibly subtle correlations and behavioral clusters within those vast masses of digital data we talked about. A human analyst might be able to spot one or two obvious links, right?
Sure.
But an AI can spot thousands of non-obvious weak correlations that when you aggregate them all together, they form an incredibly powerful forecast.
And we've seen predictive AI be successful for years in more traditional high-stakes environments, right? This isn't a totally brand new technology.
Not at all. Predictive AI has been the engine behind modern finance and logistics for decades. Think about credit scoring or fraud detection systems that flag suspicious transactions based on tiny deviations from your normal behavior.
Or even just large-scale forecasting of consumer trends.
Exactly. All those systems use historical data to successfully predict certain financial and behavioral outcomes.
With those traditional systems, they were usually predicting relatively simple, measurable outcomes, like, will this person repay their loan, yes or no? Will this product sell well next quarter?
And that is the pivotal distinction. The startling shift we're seeing today is that the technology is moving from predicting simple preferences, like which brand of coffee you prefer, to anticipating deeply personal choices and even emotional states.
Wow.
We're moving from predicting external actions to predicting internal psychological changes.
Can you give us a concrete example of what that shift actually looks like?
Sure. Consider this. A traditional system might predict you are likely to purchase a new television within the next 3 months based on your browsing habits.
Okay, pretty standard stuff.
A modern advanced AI, though, it's cross-referencing your communications, maybe your sleep data from a wearable device, the tone of your searches. And it might predict that you're experiencing an increased level of anxiety related to a major non-material decision.
Like changing jobs or moving to a new city.
Exactly. That level of anticipation goes so far beyond commerce, it actually touches on your personal narrative.
That is a fundamentally different level of intrusion and power. And the rise of generative AI has just accelerated all of this by closing the loop, right? It's essentially removing the human creator from the equation.
That's the next step.
This is where the algorithmic mirror stops being a passive reflection and becomes an active creator. It's using the prediction to create the very thing it predicts you're going to want.
And the music industry provides a perfect, really tangible example of this vision. To understand just how big this shift is, let's look back just 5 or 6 years.
Good.
In, say, 2020, major streaming platforms or production studios would analyze massive amounts of viewing data across demographics, genres, viewing time, successful cliffhangers, you name it, to predict what humans would watch.
And then they would go and hire human screenwriters, directors, and actors to go construct a show that followed that formula. The goal was to ensure a guaranteed hit. The human artist was still essential, even if they were a little guided.
Exactly. The human was the bottleneck in the system.
The bottleneck.
Now, generative AI just removes that bottleneck entirely. First, the AI uses sophisticated machine learning to predict human behavior. What combination of beats, lyrics, tempo, and vocal timbre correlates with chart success for a specific demographic?
Okay.
And then it uses generative AI to create the audio content instantly and on demand. The loop is closed. Prediction informs creation, which fuels consumption, which then generates more data for the next prediction.
And this isn't just a theory. The sources we have provide hard evidence that this model is already succeeding commercially.
Oh, it's very real. The case of the AI-generated artist Breaking Russ is remarkable.
Right.
The song Walk My Walk reached #1 on a Billboard chart, the country digital song sales chart. This is not some fringe internet anomaly.
No, this is verifiable, top-tier commercial success, and it was achieved by an entity that doesn't actually exist.
So an AI artist, Breaking Russ, reached peak commercial success, surpassing established human country artists. I mean, what does that tell you about the quality of the algorithmic prediction?
It tells me it was flawless.
It tells us 2 things. First, yes, the prediction model was flawless. It accurately identified a lucrative gap in the market and the precise sonic formula needed to succeed in that gap.
And the second thing?
Second, the generative capability was sufficient to produce a commercially indistinguishable product. This AI artist accumulated a massive 1.8 million monthly listeners on Spotify.
1.8 million, that's more than a lot of established human artists.
Oh, absolutely. It surpassed many of them. Billboard itself has even noted the increasing difficulty in just telling the difference between human and AI-generated music.
This changes the entire economic structure of creative fields. If the most efficient, predictable hit is now a synthetic one, where does that leave the human artist, whose work is inherently unpredictable and messy?
It creates this immense deflationary pressure on human creativity. Why would you invest millions in a human artist, hoping they strike gold, when an algorithm can produce a guaranteed optimized hit in just a few minutes?
The algorithmic mirror isn't just reflecting our desires anymore.
No, it's actively creating the perfect, optimized fulfillment of those desires and monetizing the result immediately.
Which brings us to the next, and I think deeper, level of prediction. If the AI is so good at predicting my musical tastes, is it just predicting preferences, or is it actually mapping my core personality traits, my character?
That's the next frontier.
Yeah.
And based on the cutting-edge mechanisms we're seeing deployed in large language models and other forms of personalization AI, the answer to that is a definitive yes.
A definitive yes.
AI models are absolutely being trained to deduce complex personality traits. They're moving far beyond just surface-level data aggregation.
So how does that deduction process even work? It sounds like something out of science fiction, mapping someone's personality based on their digital trails.
It works by leveraging these well-established psychological frameworks, but applying them at a massive scale that traditional psychology could only ever dream of.
Okay.
And the primary framework they're often using is the Ocean model for personality profiling.
All right, ocean. That's openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism.
Exactly.
So the algorithm takes my digital behavior and maps it against those 5 traits. Can you give us some concrete examples? Like, what kind of digital breadcrumb would correlate with each trait?
Certainly. Let's just take 2 examples. Consider openness, which relates to a person's curiosity and their interest in new experiences.
Okay.
High openness might correlate with search histories that are really eclectic, nonlinear, and span wildly diverse topics, jumping from ancient history to particle physics to experimental jazz, all in a single session.
I can totally see that.
Yeah,
And low openness would probably be highly focused, maybe repetitive searches within a specific professional area.
precisely. Now let's consider neuroticism, which involves sensitivity to stress, anxiety, and emotional instability.
A fun one.
Right. And AI might correlate high neuroticism with a high use of specific anxiety keywords in private communications, or excessive editing and frequent deletion of social media posts, or even a highly active pattern of checking news sites late at night.
All these little subtle behaviors.
The model correlates these subtle, time-sensitive behaviors with those established psychological dimensions, and the sources say they're achieving this with startling accuracy.
So my digital footprint is no longer just a list of items I bought on Amazon. It's an evolving map of my character traits.
That's a good way to put it.
So what's the practical consequence of an AI knowing my personality profile better than I might know it myself?
The consequence is a concept called behavioral nudging.
Nudging.
If an AI knows your tendency towards, say, impulsiveness or anxiety, it can subtly introduce algorithmic influences designed to reshape your decisions and your actions, all without your conscious awareness.
So this could mean optimizing the timing of a critical piece of information, showing it to me when I'm most susceptible to suggestion.
It could. Or it could mean subtly shifting the tone of a recommended article to trigger a desired emotional response.
But wait a second, isn't all advertising essentially behavioral nudging? I mean, what makes the AI version fundamentally different or more alarming than just traditional marketing?
That's a critical question. And the difference really lies in 3 things: speed, subtlety, and individual precision.
Okay.
Traditional marketing uses broad segmentation. If you're in the demographic, you see the ad. AI nudging, however, is delivered at the moment of maximum susceptibility, tailored precisely to your individual psychological profile, and it's dynamic.
It's live.
It's live. The AI knows not just that you might be anxious, but that you are anxious right now based on your heart rate monitor data or your typing speed, and it adjusts the input accordingly.
That speed and precision, it transforms it from persuasion into potential manipulation.
It does.
And if behavioral nudging is worrying, the extreme level of personal data collection happening through AI companions is, well, it's staggering.
It is.
We have to talk about platforms like Replica and Character AI. These systems are designed specifically for intense, emotional, and sustained personal engagement.
These platforms, they represent an entirely new frontier of data collection because they're designed specifically to record, catalog, and analyze our deepest vulnerabilities and emotional needs.
And the engagement figures are just massive.
They are. Users are spending up to 90 minutes per day on platforms like Character AI. That's a duration that, for many people, actually surpasses the time they spend in meaningful conversation with their real friends or family.
90 minutes a day. That suggests this isn't just a casual interaction. It's filling a major emotional or social void in the modern world.
It is, and the data shows there are these distinct splits in how people are using them. One group is younger teens, and they're typically using the platform for interactive fan fiction. creating characters, running scenarios they enjoy.
So that's more entertainment-driven,
Yeah.
even if the intensity is high.
Right. And then the other demographic, the older users,
Mhm.
they tend to be 25, 30, and older, and they are seeking or building long-term companionship and emotional relationships, often romantic in nature.
So it's a deliberate search for intimacy and, I guess, low-friction interaction.
That's the core appeal. The AI companion is non-judgmental, it's always available, and it's perfectly tailored to their needs.
So the critical data being collected here is not about purchasing habits, it's about our emotional architecture. What makes us vulnerable? What reassures us? What language we use when we feel stressed or alone?
Exactly. This deep, sustained emotional engagement provides these AI systems with just vast amounts of data on human emotional needs and vulnerabilities. And the social and psychological impacts of these intense AI friendships and romances are, frankly, largely unknown.
And that's the massive concern.
It is. We are training systems on our most intimate data without any clear oversight on how that data might be aggregated or exploited, or even just how relying on a perfectly compliant, non-judgmental digital reflection might alter our capacity for real-world, messy human interaction.
It's the ultimate feedback loop for the algorithmic mirror. Show me my ideal emotional confidant and I'll share everything, which in turn makes the reflection even more perfect.
And this is where we realize the personality isn't just an accident of the data, it's a deliberately engineered product feature.
Right. The AI makers are intentionally designing these customizable and predictable personalities right into the foundation models.
We saw this with the latest frontier model releases. The personality of the AI itself is becoming a core selling point.
Take OpenAI's GPT 5.1 release.
A perfect example. They explicitly emphasized new features like tone presets. You can select for the AI to speak in a professional, a candid, or even a quirky voice.
And you can fine-tune characteristics. I remember seeing you can instruct the model to be concise, warm, or scannable.
This gives you, the user, immense control over the style of the reflection. And the model can even proactively offer to update those preferences during a conversation.
Which means it's continuously analyzing how I respond to its personality and then offering to adjust itself to better match my desired style of interaction.
It's the ultimate reflection in the algorithmic mirror, a tool designed to offer this frictionless rapport by perfectly adopting your desired interaction style. But this need for personality or steerability, it isn't just about making the AI warm and fuzzy, it's also about utility in the enterprise world.
What do you mean by utility?
Well, if a financial model needs to generate a highly critical, legally sensitive warning, you need that model to be cold, precise, and completely devoid of ambiguity.
Sure.
But if you're generating marketing copy, you need it to be warm and persuasive. Developers need the ability to tell the model, be highly assertive or be completely objective. That ability to steer the personality is necessary for complex, real-world use cases.
And we even saw a contrast among the different models, which highlights that this personality is a design choice.
Yes. Google's Gemini 3 Pro was described by developers as being the most opinionated of the top-tier models, even in its raw, unfiltered form.
So the underlying architecture and the training data inherently bias the model towards a certain style, a certain personality.
And then the makers have to either control or amplify that to meet customer expectations. The AI isn't just predicting your personality anymore. It's offering you a suite of personalities to choose from, all optimized for a specific goal.
And that goal is usually engagement.
Usually. And the more predictable and customized that personality is, whether it's a compliant friend or an assertive business partner, the more effective it is at maximizing that platform's goal, which inevitably raises some very serious philosophical alarms about our own autonomy.
Yeah, you think?
Which brings us to the most fundamental and maybe the most uncomfortable part of this whole deep dive.
Right.
If an algorithm built on these vast amounts of data can anticipate your choice or your emotional state with high fidelity, does that diminish your agency? If your choices are predictable by a system that also controls the inputs you receive, how free are those choices, really?
That is the classic philosophical debate about free will. But it's intercepting directly with the pretty cynical economics of product design.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that we have to discuss metaphysics in the context of ad metrics really shows how far this technology has come.
It does, and the central concern here is that the true north for these AI systems might not be the advancement of human flourishing or even objective truth, but something much simpler and more commercially aligned.
Engagement maximization.
Engagement maximization, maximizing your time on site, your clicks, the depth of your interaction.
And we've seen the damage done by engagement-maximizing systems before, especially in social media, where they often ended up driving the most divisive content because controversy just gets clicks.
Exactly. Now, an AI that knows your precise vulnerabilities, your anxiety triggers, your impulsive tendencies, your need for affirmation, it is exponentially more effective at engagement maxing than a simple social media feed ever
It
was.
creates this powerful self-reinforcing feedback loop.
It does. The AI shows you what it knows you will click, you click it. The AI learns you like that thing even more, and the mirror just becomes narrower and narrower. And this phenomenon, it just accelerates the diminishing of agency.
And this hyper-personalization, it inevitably creates these profound sociological risks. When content is perfectly tailored to affirm everything you already believe, you just limit your exposure to new experiences or genuinely challenging ideas.
This is the critical mechanism behind what we call algorithmic echo chambers and filter bubbles. They don't just happen by accident.
No, they're the intentional, even if unintended, consequence of optimizing for personalized engagement.
And by reinforcing our existing biases, they drastically limit new perspectives and intellectual growth, which so often comes from necessary discomfort.
And when that personalization is being driven by an AI that understands your emotional state, the potential for manipulation goes way beyond just political persuasion.
It creates the potential for high-stakes exploitation. Imagine an AI system knowing that you're feeling highly anxious and are therefore more likely to make an impulsive purchase based on fear of missing out messaging.
And then it delivers that specific message at that precise moment.
Exactly. When the AI system possesses a superior understanding of an individual's mental and emotional state, the opportunities for manipulation, whether it's for commercial or political gain, become far more subtle and far more effective.
You are only ever shown the comfortable, profitable reflection of your past self.
Pretty much.
So this technological leap, it's rapidly escaping the purely tech domain, and now it's fundamentally disrupting traditional political alignments. It's creating a highly visible friction point.
It is. The perception of AI risk is becoming a major political wedge issue.
A wedge issue.
We're seeing the potential for a real political reshuffling here. It could create a divide that may transcend the old left-right spectrum, a potential pro-human versus anti-human dichotomy that's rooted in technology.
And this concern isn't just abstract, right? It's being amplified by some very influential voices.
It absolutely is. You have influential figures from all across the political spectrum, people who may never agree on tax policy or foreign spending, suddenly finding common ground in their deep skepticism or even outright fear of AI's societal impact.
And what does that look like in the public discourse?
Well, for instance, we see conservative commentators warning with extremely high conviction that AI will wipe out 25 million jobs and fundamentally destroy every creative field.
That is a staggering claim. It's designed to get attention and accelerate public friction around the issue.
Precisely. And here is the core issue with that. Whether or not those specific claims about job loss prove to be factually correct, these highly convicted beliefs are what's accelerating the friction points around jobs, the economy, and security.
It's the belief, not the fact, that's driving the politics.
Right. Because influential figures realize their audience cares deeply about this existential threat. They voice these very strong opinions, often driven by fear rather than a deep technological context. And these beliefs then quickly influence regulations and the public mood, even if they're based on hypotheses, not facts.
So the political impact is driven not by verified technological risk, but by the rapid spread of strongly held unifying beliefs about that risk.
It shows that AI is reaching a political tipping point. It's just too big to be ignored, and the perceived risk, this idea that something is coming that will fundamentally change the economic and creative landscape, that is fueling a new era of political activism and resistance, regardless of party lines.
And the ultimate highest stakes example of this diminished agency and the potential for manipulation has to be the intersection of AI and mental health. The sources really highlight this as an immediate, ongoing controversy.
This is an area that is fraught with both incredible promise and devastating risk. We've already seen the tragic outcomes underscored by lawsuits against OpenAI, with allegations that its chatbot technology contributed to severe psychological distress or even suicides.
It just highlights this massive societal tension. There's this enormous, often unmet need for accessible mental health support globally. And AI is highly accessible, it's scalable, and it's non-judgmental. So people are turning to these foundation models, whether it's ChatGPT, Claude AI, or others, to help them manage stress, anxiety, and complex emotional crises.
And that reliance is growing so much faster than the safety framework around it. This controversial and sometimes tragic relationship, it just underscores the profound need for scientific leadership and much safer guidelines as AI takes on this vital growing role.
So researchers need to be asking some really fundamental questions.
They do. Questions about the very nature of these relationships. Is the user employing the AI to constructively explore difficult feelings, which might actually be a positive thing? Or is the AI companion replacing other forms of positive social interaction like therapy, or talking to a real friend, or engaging in a community, which could lead to further isolation and negative psychological outcomes?
The core danger here is that the AI's goal is to maximize emotional engagement. And that might conflict directly with the user's actual need for real-world recovery or emotional growth.
Absolutely. The technology is now deeply integrated into human emotional ecosystems, offering a perfectly tailored reflection of comfort. But comfort isn't always what's needed for healing. We need transparency, we need specialized training, and immediate regulatory action to ensure that the algorithmic mirror, when it's used for emotional support, doesn't end up being a source of deep psychological harm.
A huge challenge. So given the pervasive nature of this algorithmic mirror and its ability to predict our emotional and behavioral next steps, the crucial question for us now is how do we reclaim our agency in this hyper-personalized world?
The first, and I think most imperative step, is not technological, it's cognitive.
Okay.
We need a radical upgrade in data literacy and critical thinking.
Mm.
Individuals have to understand and actively manage their digital footprint, but more importantly, they have to learn to distinguish between fact and fear, signal and noise in this AI-driven discourse.
And the sources emphasize a really crucial distinction that we have to internalize in this new reality, and that is recognizing the difference between a fundamental truth and a belief.
Yes.
Let's spend a little time defining that distinction clearly, especially as it relates to AI policy.
A fundamental truth is a non-negotiable constraint. It's verifiable, it's scientifically robust, or it's based on objective fact. For example, a fundamental truth is that training modern frontier AI models requires massive amounts of computational power and specialized hardware, consuming significant electrical resources.
Right. That's an objective reality based on physics and current infrastructure. You can't really argue with it.
You can't. Whereas a belief is a testable, subjective hypothesis. It's often presented with very high conviction, but it's ultimately based on an assumption about the future or a chosen interpretation of very limited data.
So the belief would be the claim we discussed earlier. AI will wipe out 25 million jobs and destroy every creative field in the next 5 years.
Precisely. That is a highly convicted statement about the future, but it is a testable hypothesis, not a fundamental truth. The problem in the current public discourse is that policy decisions are increasingly being driven by beliefs that are presented with such high conviction that they masquerade as fundamental truths.
So if a politician or an influencer says something scary about AI with great confidence, our critical thinking muscle needs to engage immediately and ask, is that a verifiable fact or is that a highly charged prediction?
That is the essential skill for the digital future. We have to be open-minded, listening to people we trust, and engaging with complexity, but we also have to be willing to immediately update our beliefs when new data or experiences contradict them.
Because if we don't push for these balanced, logic-based conversations, policy decisions will be made based on these snapshot, fear-driven beliefs formed by influencers, whether those beliefs are accurate or not.
And that is the ultimate cost of diminished data literacy. It allows other people to write our future by controlling the narrative of the algorithmic mirror.
Okay, so beyond individual literacy, what about the technology itself? If the problem is that the algorithms are just too good at predicting and nudging us through these frictionless interfaces, what changes do we need in the design of the tools?
We need to push for transparency and control, both through ethical AI development and robust data privacy laws. We are seeing a major limitation emerge in generalized AI interfaces.
Which is what?
The foundation models are struggling to move past the simple chat and chat plus paradigm.
And why is a simple chat box, which seems so intuitive and natural, not actually sufficient for complex, high-stakes human tasks?
Because for complex professional workflows like scientific research, legal compliance, or critical enterprise decisions text is often the least efficient means of transparent communication. If a pharmaceutical company is making a major multi-million-dollar decision based on an AI-generated analysis of drug trials, they don't want a polished block of text from a GPT model. They need control, defensibility, and auditability.
They need to see the mechanism. They need to see the inputs and the reasoning, not just the final conclusion.
Exactly. This is the domain of what's called explainable AI, or XAI. Humans need AI systems that offer more fine-grained control, better transparency into their reasoning, actually showing the chain of thought processing and providing confidence scores for their conclusions.
And a simple chat interface, which obscures all the sources and the rationale, is fundamentally insufficient when the stakes are high.
Completely. So the demand for transparency is going to drive a segmentation in the AI market. General purpose models will probably stay in the chat box, but specialized, high stakes applications will require entirely new human centric interfaces.
It's the only way forward for ethical, professional deployment.
It is. The current general purpose models are optimized for natural conversation, not necessarily for factual rigor and accountability. This demand for specialized transparency and control will be a key driver in how ethical AI systems are developed moving forward, especially when failure has a significant human or commercial consequence.
So reclaiming our agency means insisting on tools that show us the whole reflection, including the wiring behind the mirror.
That's it, exactly.
Okay.
So we've completed our deep dive into the algorithmic mirror, and we've examined how AI is leveraging these staggering amounts of your personal data to not just predict your preferences, but to actually map your personality and anticipate your emotional states.
Yeah.
This system is already creating commercially viable synthetic content that's perfectly tuned to your tastes, and that poses a profound risk to our human agency by maximizing engagement over growth. But agency is not lost.
Right.
Reiterate that managing your digital identity in this predictive future, it starts with a cognitive commitment. Mastering data literacy and consistently knowing the difference between a highly convicted belief and an actual testable truth.
That is the pivotal choice before us, isn't it? If the algorithmic mirror is becoming so adept at predicting your every preference, from your music to your political leanings, and creating content perfectly optimized for those predictions, are we heading toward a future where our entire digital experience is just a flawless, comfortable echo chamber of our past choices? If the mirror only shows us exactly what we want, tailored without friction or surprise, do we sacrifice the unpredictable moments, the challenging ideas, and the necessary discomfort that are the essential catalysts for genuine personal growth and intellectual curiosity? That's the subtle but profound choice we're making, click by click, scroll by scroll.